Hi, so I'm Mark Hill, and what I wanted to do is give you an explanation of how this video is put together for your convenience. Immediately following this introduction, you'll hear each etude. What I do is I play the full all-state version of each etude, one right after the other. And then those of you who only want to hear the etudes, want to hear examples of it, then that you've got that right up front. For those of you who might want a little more guidance, the remainder of the video will be pointers and instruction on some of the concepts or specific pieces of the etude that I might be able to help you with through some of my expertise and experience. So with that, let's go ahead and hear the first three etudes. Okay, so first, a couple of general points about what you heard with the recorded etudes. Most of you should have noticed that I was playing with tracks. I used iReal Pro. I've also used Band in a Box. Any app like that will work. Uh, I recommend, like most people, practicing with a metronome. Tracks like a metronome are tools for learning the pieces. Both of them can help you with time and your rhythmic accuracy. But what tracks do is it also helps you with your pitches, pitch accuracy, intonation. Um, and if you haven't ever tried to learn about how to use an app like that, dealing with chord changes and things like that, this might be a good opportunity, especially if you want to learn more about improvisation. This can help you a lot, to start learning how chords are put together and learn what notes, are in a chord and that kind of thing. So, I would encourage that, as long as you're learning these pieces and they're written to go with these chord changes, um, they sound better when you're playing them with a track than when you're just playing them by yourselves. Now, I know you can't do it in the audition itself, but it still will give you that context. So you're going to be hearing those tracks in your head when you're auditioning, even though they're not there. And of course, practice without the tracks too, because that's how you're going to have to play them. But as a learning tool, that's a good thing, to learn how they sound with the chord changes that they were written for. The second general point applies to articulation. So this applies to all three etudes. Our articulations generally in jazz are a little softer, especially eighth note lines and 16th note lines. So we use a da articulation instead of ta, um, generally. So you're going to hear da 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 that instead of ta 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 ta. That would be the correct, that softer articulation would be the correct sound. This I just happened to think of a third point that applies to all three etudes, and that is check all of your notes. First part of that is check your key signature. We get used to playing in key signatures like B flat, E flat, A flat, but a couple of these etudes are not in those keys. So there's going to be a few more natural notes that you might not be used to playing. Um, Also, check accidentals. The accidental rule that I find catches a lot of younger players is the accidental carrying through the measure. I mean, it can catch all of us, but I'm looking at measure 13 of the first etude. There's an A natural and a B natural at the beginning of the measure. And then on the end of 4, there's a B. That's going to be a B natural because that accidental carries through the measure. But you cross the bar line, and on beat 1, you've got a B flat. So in advanced pieces like these etudes are, it's very common for you to have to go between a B natural and a B flat within the same measure, or within a couple of measures, you may change unexpectedly. Um, so again, double check the notes in all three etudes. Make sure that you know what the notes are, which notes are intended, because if you can't hit the right notes in an audition if you don't even know what the right notes are supposed to be. Okay, so now for some specific comments on etude number 1. It's a swing etude, but it's a little faster than maybe some pieces that you learned. It's more of a bebop type style. So we don't play that, like when we're learning, we don't play that do da do, the every end of the on eighth notes, every end doesn't get the emphasis. It's more about learning what we call jazz inflection. So you kind of um, play the notes more according to the line. I'll just play right here at the beginning. Okay, so I didn't play. I slowed that down just to illustrate. So that second way is not right. So just, you one of the things that you have to do is listen to jazz in order to get those concepts. Now, um, I'm going to jump down. Well, second line. I'm not going to demonstrate this right now. You can go back and listen. But second line, um, on measure 4, 5, 6, 7, you've got the 4 quarter notes. Beat 1 is long, beat 2 has the rooftop accent, 3 and 4 are long. So be sure you follow that articulation. It's kind of an exception. I mean, with that articulation written that way, you really want to pay attention to it. Anytime you've got something that's a little out of the ordinary. Now, third line, there's a few things we can point out here. Um, Notice the do 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 again, soft articulation. Um, Second measure, do da do da. That G flat should be a little short because it's the last eighth note in a line of eighth notes, and then the next measure, do da do da 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 da. The quarter note has a rooftop accent, so that's going to be short. But then the next measure, we've got a quarter note at the end of 4/8 notes, and that one isn't marked, so it's going to be long. Do da do da da. So you can listen to that. The next spot that I would like to mention here is the triplet in measure 15 on the fourth line. Um, I expect a lot of people are going to want to play those triplets hard. But what you want to do is really, it's more of an effect. So you don't want to play them hard. You want to kind of brush through them, right? More like that. Then the next spot. I mean, there's a lot of things in here I'd like to do. There's just not time. But I'm going to jump down to measure 25 and 26. That goes into 27 plus a pickup into it. For one thing, it's just a nice line, but it does present some, just the intervals and everything present some technical challenges. So I would say, this would definitely be one to slow down and see what it sounds like, and then eventually work it up. Okay, so that's it in slow motion, and then you can work it up. But learn what it sounds like first before you start trying to play it fast. And as I play that, and as I look at measure 29, I'm reminded of alternate positions. It's one of those things that we talk about. One of the I play a lot of alternate positions when I'm playing anything. Um, I mean, any kind of a jazz thing when it calls for it. For instance, at the beginning of the piece, there's we go from B flat C to D. Um, I go in one motion to play the D in fourth position instead of B flat C coming back to first to D to get that back and forth position. Especially the longer the movement going back and forth, if you can avoid that with alternate positions, it can make it smoother. It can make it easier on you. So we want to do that. But an example of where you kind of have to decide what's best for you, because I chose to use alternate positions in measure 29. I'm playing B flats in fifth and the F in sixth. For some people that might be a little too difficult, because it is a little tricky to get everything, uh, uh, the intonation correct and everything. But here's how I'm doing it. So it's a little tricky to do that, but over time, and once I play it fast, it's a lot easier than the slide motion in normal positions is a lot more work, and so it would be harder to make it sound nice and smooth. So again, um, the thing is, I would encourage you to look for occasions where you can make things better with alternate positions. Um, don't be afraid to experiment, and just because it doesn't feel right at first doesn't mean it's not the right thing. Moving on to etude number 2. This is a slow etude, so you have a lot more latitude for some personal expression. Um, you can do some, there can be some little slide scooping into notes and things like that that you don't necessarily do in the faster things, but you can be expressive. Second thing I would point out is make sure that you're planning your breathing through this. Measure 11 and 12. This is a very nice effect. You're on a high B at forte, and then it's followed by that F sharp at piano. Um, you be sure that you're using your breath correctly. Keep that air moving. A good airflow through both of those notes. And if you execute it well, then it's a very nice effect. Line 2 and 3 from the bottom. You've got a few places where you've got some rooftop accents on notes, and then you've got some staccatos on other notes. Don't play them the same. They're not quite the same. I won't go into the details right now, but just make a difference between those. And then finally, I do want to mention, like, this one goes up to the high D. It's not something that most of us are doing every day. Um, you have to kind of figure out on your horn what works. Like, I've got another horn that I usually play, and I can play a high D in first position on it, but I can't on this one. I had to use a, like, it's kind of like a second position for this horn. So every horn's a little different. You have to kind of figure that out on your own. Use your tuner, use your ear to figure out where you're going to be able to play some of those upper notes, because a lot of them can be played in multiple positions once you get up into that extreme range. And then now we'll get to etude number 3. The first thing, as a salsa, the eighth notes are straight, not swung. Um, However, you still can play with a jazz inflection. In other words, not all notes are exactly have the same emphasis on them. Um, there's some surprise articulations in this one to watch out for. Uh, pay close attention to those. For instance, measure 5. Especially that middle staccato note is that's not natural. So watch out for that. Measure 17 and 18. Having that staccato on beat 1 of those two quarter notes is different. So pay attention to all those articulations like that. There are some different ones in here. Um, Also, back to one of my original general points, you don't see legato markings on this piece at all, but you're going to play, especially all those eighth note lines, you're going to play them all with a smooth articulation. Da 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 da. So just be sure that you do that, and you've got a triplet just like in the first etude. It's not, don't hammer it, play it lightly, and it's more of an effect at this tempo. And then the final point I would make is, I'll just point out in measure 2, I'll play it. Several of those notes in that measure are in second position, but not all second positions are the same. We know that G's have to be pulled in. We know the E's are a little bit out. So, just as high school players, we really should already be doing that, but not everybody does. So, that's something to be aware of.